and welcome to another episode of the Garbage Lighting Podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to another episode of Breaking Through in Cybersecurity Marketing. I'm one of your hosts, Gianna Whitfair, here with my amazing co-host who just ate something mysterious.
Maria Velasquez, and it's past my lunchtime.
What did you eat, Maria?
I'm just having a little mini charcuterie board.
Ooh, charcuterie board. This is a far more highbrow podcast than I was aware I was going to be on. I normally just call that cheese and crackers. So like I'm having like Lunchables, you're having charcuterie. So I'm not sure I'm in the right place, but I appreciate you entertaining me anyway.
And I'm having nothing, so I'm mad at both of you. And you just heard the voice of our amazing guest. We have the famous, the bombastic, the spectacular AJ Nash on. AJ, tell the audience, because I know you've had some change lately. What do you do? That's
a really good question. First, thanks for having me. Bombastic is a really good adjective. I love that one. So I'm AJ Nash. What do I do is a really good question for those who don't know, and depending on when this ends up airing. My career just changed like the day before we decided we were going to do this podcast. So, but historically, I'm a traditional Intel professional. I got about 19 years in the intelligence community. I build and mature intelligence programs. Been in the private sector about 8 years. Beyond that, I do a lot of thought leadership work. I think what people call evangelizing on security, intelligence-driven security. All things in that space. I've held roles at a lot of companies that people are familiar with, Symantec and Anomaly and ZeroFox, leading Intel teams and traveling around the world speaking on this subject and writing papers and journals and whatnot. I'm also the host of Unspoken Security, the podcast, which is not as cool as this one, but hopefully we'll get there at some point.
We'll you'll get there one day.
We're working on it. It takes time, but it's a lot of fun to do, and I get to have some really cool conversations like this. It's funny to be on the other side. It's been a while since I've been a guest. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm really looking forward to having a cool conversation about all the things we do.
Very cool. So I think we want to really dive into what you do that is a mix of marketing and security, which is content creation. I mean, that's so exciting to be someone who's traditionally from that intelligence security background, who spends a majority of your time now creating content and doing essentially marketing. How did you even get into that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride. So how did I get into it? Well, I think it was always sort of a natural thing, right? So, I mean, since I was a kid, I was on stage or on microphone. I did broadcasting school before I even went in the military. And when I was in the military and the government space doing intelligence work, I did a lot of briefings. Generally, I worked at NSA, and at the agency, we joke about the difference between the introverts and the extroverts. Introverts stare at their own shoes when they walk in the hallways. Extroverts will stare at other people's shoes. It's a pretty introverted world. And so I stood out because I actually am pretty extroverted and I really enjoy, intelligence briefings. So I ended up doing a lot of that. So I got very comfortable and familiar with that. And along with Intel work, right? In the private sector, that became a really valuable commodity. A lot of times I found when I got out of the government space, a lot of people didn't understand intelligence. It's a buzzword and it gets applied all over the place. And you have so many people have added to their titles of, intelligence this, intelligence that, and they're not necessarily intelligence. That's not an insult. It's just a misunderstanding of the terminology. So I found myself speaking a lot more about it. When one of my first gigs, I was at a financial, and I ended up writing an article for a magazine, and that got picked up and did pretty well. And so people liked some of the content. And then at another company, I started writing, putting out presentations to teach what Intel is and isn't. And in this case, it was for a sales force, how to sell intelligence, and also for customers on how to make value out of what you're getting. And it just sort of grew from there. I've had more opportunities to write, papers and articles and podcasts and, webinars, and I've been on stage and speaking, and I'm just really comfortable. These are things I'm really passionate about. The content I really care about. What we're talking about, intelligence-driven security, matters to me, and I'm just really comfortable, with public speaking and meeting new people, and I like the opportunity to share ideas and help people, and so it just sort of grew from there. And I generally don't say no was sort of my motto along the way. It can be a really bad thing. You get really tasked, saturated. But the trade-off is you get all sorts of opportunities. And if you can do some of those things, you get a reputation as somebody who will step up, and then people want to work with you even more. And so I've been one of those people. So I'm a guy who might jump in on 2 minutes notice and do an interview with a media organization, or, hey, we need a blog in an hour and a half for a press release. All right, I can do that. So So you become sort of a useful pet for a lot of organizations that way.
Love that. Useful pet is the wrong way to put it. You are literally the unicorn every marketing team in cybersecurity dreams of. Someone we can turn to.
Let's hope that's true, because it's I'm doing a little bit of free agency now at the same time. So I keep hearing, as I said to somebody, I keep hearing great things, and now I just need somebody to say those great things and also have a number attached to it and be willing to pay me.
Love that. Grab him while you can,
right.
folks.
Yeah.
All our listeners.
Hopefully by the time this actually goes live, I'll already be doing something else. I'm
Seriously,
in some
right?
discussions with other folks, but the truth is I really love doing this, and doing some board advisory work and VC advisory as well. I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the industry. I like to travel. I like meeting people. I like helping and feeling like I'm useful. It's kind of a big thing. I have a master's in organizational leadership, and the focus is servant leadership from Gonzaga, Go Zags. And
Gonzaga.
And that matters to me. Servant leadership is super important to me. I really believe in it, to my core. I won't work someplace that doesn't. And that all applies to this, just being of service to others and being, useful and helpful. So it all kind of lines up together. Plus, I have a decent voice. So
nice.
You do.
Yeah,
you do have a radio voice.
I have a voice for radio. I also have a face for radio. But I enjoy doing what we do. And getting a chance to meet folks like you. So it's just worked out that way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So AJ, you told us about all the things you love about the industry.
Yeah.
Now, let's get controversial. Tell us about all the things you don't love and would like to see changed about the industry.
Oh, such a long list. Controversy is sort of my middle name. I think some of the biggest concerns I have, I would say, that are frustrating me. First of all, it's organizations that put the bottom line ahead of security, which is nearly every organization, frankly. Most companies will talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, they're going to do what's best for their bottom line. And if they can't justify the spend for proactive security, they may say they care about customers and data and all these things. They may not care as much as they say, though. I think we're seeing a trend in that direction, actually. I think we're seeing a trend in companies that are actually reducing security spend because they're doing the math. And they have good accountants, and they say, well, how likely are we to get hit? How often is it going to be hit? How much is it going to cost us if we're hit? And then they math that out against, well, what is it to prevent every year? And what are the likelihood? There's no 100% prevention. So if you do the math and say, hey, we need $10 million to run a really good security practice, intelligence-driven security practice, and we're likely to get hit with a ransomware attack every 10 years, and the average ransom is $5 million, well, no. I mean, they're going to say, forget that. $5 million, 10 years, like $500,000 a year is what you should be having to try to prevent that. Otherwise, it's not break even. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that. It's subtle. I don't think companies talk about it. They certainly won't publicly say it, but I think we're seeing a lot of that. And the challenge is, to me, when I moved in the private sector, first gig was at a bank, and I was trying to figure out, okay, why do we spend so much money on security? And I was told we do it because customers won't trust us with their money if they think they can't trust us, right? And so the idea was you'd lose business if you got breached or compromised if you were in a position of trust. And the data no longer supports that. There's plenty of research that shows that companies are getting whacked all the time, and their stock price goes up. Their quarterly revenues go up. Their quarterly profits keep going up. And whether people want to believe it or not, our entire structure is set up on, at least for the for-profit business, it's set up on that. If it isn't profitable, then they're not going to do it. It's not about if it's the right thing to do. If it's, if we try to mix ethics and morality too much with business, we're going to be very disappointed in the results, I think, as consumers. If a company has a stock price and they have stockholders, which by law they are required to look out for first, not their customers, then that's what they're going to do. So I'm really concerned with that. I'm concerned with the lack of consequences for breaches where it's pretty obvious that somebody should have been held accountable because it was a pretty basic thing. And there aren't a lot of consequences. There's not a lot of accountability. So I worry about that. And I guess the other controversial things, you want all sorts of quotable stuff, is, AI. Everybody loves AI. AI's everywhere now.
Aye.
Yeah, that's right. That's totally. AI is the new magic bullet for everything. And the challenge there is, first of all, it's not AI. It is not intelligent. All right. This is not some sentient being. It is a lot of stacked machine learning, which is really, really impressive and does amazing things. But it can't replace people in most cases, despite what people will sell it as. So I worry about two things, multiple, but two that come to mind is one, eventually some organization is going to launch a presentation where they say, you don't need all these Intel analysts. You don't need to spend all this money and tell people we're going to give you automated end-to-end intelligence with AI. We'll do all the collection, all the analysis, all the reporting. We'll give you all these large number of reports for a small amount of money. You can wipe out all those people. And somebody's going to buy it because it's going to look and smell like Intel because they don't understand it well enough. And the papers look like it. It's just like a lot of the AI generated pictures look good until you look closely and you realize that's not.
And enough buzzwords in there too, like end to end.
100%. And but you look closely in this picture, like that's not a real language in those letters. That's all squiggles. And you start being able to see the flaws in the AI, but at first it looks good. And somebody's going to do that with Intel, and some corporation's going to buy it, probably a lot of them, because they want to save that money. And they're going to make decisions based on it, because that's what intelligence is supposed to do, is help you make informed decisions. And then something terrible is going to happen. And some companies are going to make a lot of money selling a lot of this snake oil before people realize you can't do it that way. AI will turn humans into superhumans. It will not replace Intel analysts. And if people tell you it will, you should not be listening to them. But people will, because again, bottom line and greed come into play, and they're going to try to do more with less. So I worry about that a lot. And then the generative AI and the threats with that, misdis and malinformation. I've talked about the post-truth world that I think we are on the verge of, and maybe we're there now, and how really scary that's going to be for everybody in every aspect of life. That's medical, that's politics, that's economics, that's security. That's all of it. And we're basically there now. I mean, this stuff's getting really good, and a misinformation campaign with some really compelling video and audio is very hard to catch up to and reverse. People believe what they see and hear, especially if it fits their biases. And it's leading to a more segmented, fractured, and potentially violent country and world. So just those things I worry about. Other than that, things are great. Life's really good besides all those horrible things that we have to worry about.
Besides that, it's summer and
right. Yeah, things are fine. Otherwise, if you can hoard a lot of resources and get to a deserted island someplace, now's the time to think about it, probably. But
man, what happened to the can campaign from ShopRite? We need to bring that back and go crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting times. I mean, again, the flip side, if you want to be more positive about it, is there are brilliant people working on the other side of this too, and trying to solve for this and building tools and technologies. If we can get to the point where you can do real-time debunking of fraudulent content, that'd be great. Yeah. I think we have to, though. It's got to be real-time, and it has to be simple so people can consume it. People don't, if you say, oh, this isn't real, and then you give them this scientific explanation with all these algorithms and diagrams and charts, you've already lost most of the audience, because most of the audience just saw the pretty pictures and voice and said, no, that's that person saying that thing, and they're not going to hear you.
They look like a newscaster.
That's right.
So I believe.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I'm glad because, this is not, I'm glad, but this is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and even security companies. RSA Sandbox winner this year was Reality Defender.
Yes.
Which is a great name for a company. Yes. Somebody just showed me their website, just referred them to me. And I haven't played with their tools yet or anything, so I can't advocate other than say their website's really damn cool. And I saw that they won the award, so I'm very interested. Like, that's the kind of group that I want to learn more about, because that's a growth area for sure. Exactly. And it's blending in this sort of like almost like a public good. I mean, all of us are working at companies that hopefully that we believe in. When we believe in them, they're operating toward the public good, which is what's so awesome about this industry, is that if you're working at a company that stops malware, if you're working at a company that pen tests, if you're working at a company in cybersecurity, there's a trickle down of what you're doing that it'll help keep people in the world safer. Yep. So it's great to see that Reality Defender and other companies that are coming out to prevent and detect and identify misinformation, disinformation, deepfakes are coming out, and with this mission, this corporate-backed mission of actually doing good in the world. Yep. So, I should probably reach out to them. Maybe that's a place for me. That's my kind of motivation. I'll tell you that. I'm a big believer in doing good in the world. You should say, hey, my name's AJ Nash. I am super fucking famous. I was going to get bleeped. Yeah. And I just name dropped you on the hottest podcast about cybersecurity marketing in the industry on N2K Cyberwire. That's right. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to them. Well, and my podcast just won an award. Unspoken Security. Ooh. Yeah, we just won an award.
Let's talk about that. Talk to us.
I would, but I can't remember what the award was now. So it was, and how horrible is that? It's the truth. So I'll never be really famous because I am probably the worst self-promoter ever. I hate self-promotion with a passion. I need other people to say good things about me so I don't have to, because I hate it. So I'm actually literally, for those who don't know, I have 4 32-inch monitors in front of me at all times. So I'm actually going to look up the answer to this question. So we
Yeah,
have it
let's
live.
look it up. We want to know.
I looked it up. I think I found it. It was
Did you
like a
already find
month.
it?
Yeah, it was about a month ago. I think you won Best Podcast by the Cybersecurity Excellence Awards.
That's it.
Best
Yeah, she
cybersecurity
beat me to it.
podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate
Congrats.
it. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. We're 6 months into it, so yeah, to be named as best podcast in cybersecurity is pretty cool. I will caveat it just because I'm all about being really, really transparent. There were 5 winners, and I believe they were based on size of company. So as I saw the awards come out, so I won for the segment of the size of the company I was with. So I'm not the best, but according to these guys, we have
take
one of
it.
the best. So
We
yeah,
think
I'm
you're
very
the
excited
best.
about it. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, maybe I'll reach out to Reality Defender. And if nothing else, I'd love to have them on as a guest. They got some pretty cool stuff. So anyway, sorry, I derailed. Go ahead. This is what
You're
everything's for.
good.
You'll cut
No,
out
we were
whatever you
talking
want.
about since you're podcast host, podcast media, cybersecurity media. Tell us a little bit more. I know at your last company you had a team behind you because you actually reported into marketing, which is
Yep.
so freaking cool. Like Maria was saying earlier, like you're like
Yeah.
the golden goose, the unicorn, the goat. If we have to name all these animals that you
Right.
could potentially be, right?
Right.
Like that's the dream scenario for a marketing team at a security company is for them to have a really well-respected and prominent voice, a security voice, aligned with them. But tell us a little bit about, the podcast and the marketing and, you've had this podcast for a while. How are you promoting it? How is it getting out
Poorly.
there? How are you
I'm promoting it terribly.
Okay.
Is how I'm promoting it right now. Very poorly. No, it's a good question. So in my career, I've worked for most of the C's at some point, whether it's the CEO or the CTO or the CRO or the CSO, and so yeah, my role has been with the CMO in this case. And actually, it was a transition. I was CTO and I joined the company and transitioned
And
over.
it's been the best C-level executive you've worked with so far.
The funny thing about it is that's not necessarily untrue. I actually worked for 2 different CMOs in this role.
Thank you.
And it's been good. The truth of the matter is they have been some of the better people I've worked with. The team's been fantastic. I've been really lucky the last few places I've been. I've worked with really good marketers, and I get along really well with marketing folks. Once I have been able to rein in some of them to the, hey, let's drop some of the hyperbole. I'm not going to sign off on this. And again, starting to educate some on, the intel pieces. You write a paper and they want to turn it into a blog and they're like, we don't really like this. Low confidence assessment doesn't sound good. Let's just say high confidence. I'm like, no, you can't just do that. Like, let me explain to you why it's called low confidence. We're not just going to change it all to high confidence, which a lot of companies want to do with their marketing. This is going to happen. Like, whoa. I've got almost no data to support that. Hold on. So, but I've always had really good relationships where if I explain it and I sit down and say, this is what confidence ratings mean on Intel, they go, oh, okay, I get it. So I've been able to keep a hard line on, hey, I have to own the Intel content to make sure it's represented properly. But other than that, it's been really fun. So, and the truth of the matter is I've done more and more as we've gone. I started doing it on my own. I did it. The first thing I did publicly was the first things I did publicly, I guess, were unsanctioned. So when I was at the bank, I wrote a magazine article that was published. I didn't ask permission or anything. I just went and did it. And then when I was at my first tech company, I was at Symantec. I don't know if this is a story will get cut, but that's all right. So I was asked to be on a podcast, Cyberwire. Actually, I'll even name the podcast. Great guys,
Our overlords and 2K Cyberwire, and we love them.
Oh, they are. Oh, yeah, you guys are partnered up.
We're on their network.
I forgot about that.
Cyberwire right now.
Right. Well, Dave Bittner's fantastic, right? So he was the first
way
one.
to go, Gianna. Save that one.
Well done. So he reached out. There was an opportunity. They had a guest that had canceled at the last minute. So I lived in Maryland at the time, and their studio is not far from where I lived. And they asked if I wanted to come on and be a guest. To talk about cyber and security and intel and servant leadership. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And at the time, the podcast was actually sponsored by Recorded Future, which was one of our biggest competitors.
No kidding.
Right. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so this was like a Friday, and they wanted me to come in Saturday to the studio to record. And so I told my boss, I said, hey, just so you know this happened, I'm going to go do this. And he said, did you talk to corporate? Have you talked to marketing at all? And I said, no. I said, I'm also not going to. He's like, okay. So I went and did this thing, and it went live. And it got a lot of traction. It was a pretty successful episode, et cetera. And of course, the call came from from home office and the chief marketing officer and everybody down for this big company. They were not happy about what had happened. And I said, okay, well, first of all, I don't know why we're unhappy. This was a marketing win. We just had one of our biggest competitors pay for us to have an hour of us talking about ourselves on Dave Bittner's show, which is one of the better podcasts out there. This seems like a big win, and it didn't cost us anything. And my content wasn't the issue. Nobody had a problem with what we said. They just didn't know about it. I said, they didn't want me to do it anymore. I said, well, then you're probably either going to have to, because I hadn't had media training was the concern. And I said, well, you're probably going to want to get me media training then, because I'm not going to stop doing this. So either you're going to want to get me media training or you're going to want to fire me, I suppose. And they're like, okay, we'll get a media training. So they sent out the media training folks, right? And we go do this media training. And again, I've done media before. I've done broadcasting. I went to broadcasting school. I've done sports broadcasting. I've been around a while. And we're having this training session. It's good people, nice session. And we have a break in the session. And during the break, I said something pretty controversial and not particularly flattering to the company. But it was, not for official exposure. It was just a complaint I had, basically. And
Nice.
so we finished training. Everything's great. The next day or 2 days later, whatever it is, I get word back that the company I failed the training and I'm never to speak on behalf of the company again. I'm a wild card and I can't be trusted on the mic, all this stuff. Right.
Ooh, hot mic.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And so I said to my boss, I'm like, I don't even know how this is possible. It was a great session. Everything went well, et cetera. And I got word back. It was this quote. And I said, well, that quote wasn't part of the training.
Record.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the training.
This is like we're just hanging out eating a donut, right?
Right. I said, clearly it's not something I'd have said publicly about the company. It's just a personal gripe I have. And so I told them, I said, well, I'm just going to ignore this. So I guess if you're going to fire me, you're going to fire me because I'm going to keep doing this. I like it. I like the opportunities it offers and I like talking to people and helping. So I'm just going to keep doing this. And nothing ever happened. Like nobody fired me. Nobody stopped me. I just kept doing what I was doing. And I built good relationships with a lot of people in marketing too. By the way, for anybody listening, this is not the course of action I recommend. Whatever choices you make in your career, be willing to accept the consequences. I was willing to accept the possibility I would lose my job over it, I guess. I'm not sure it was a wise choice, but it worked out all the same. So that's how I started doing this, right? Was I just sort of pushed my way in. Essentially, I wrote something for a magazine that got picked up. I did, a podcast when I wasn't really authorized, and I just started doing more of those things. And again, it was because there was a need. There was so much in my role. I was spending a lot of time talking with customers and prospects and sales teams, and I just saw so many people who wanted to be successful but didn't understand intelligence. Or had a really poor understanding. They were given bad information, which is even worse. So they thought they understood intelligence, which is the worst thing when you talk to somebody who thinks they know things. And then you have to explain to them how they don't without making them feel bad. And sometimes those are CISOs, and they are not notorious for having small egos. So you run into some issues occasionally there. I've had more than one conversation that didn't go well early on. I do remember once telling somebody, well, clearly you're fine. And I was brought in here because I was told you have a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave. I'm going to go ahead and leave and you're going to keep your problem. I'm going to go back to my job. And when you're gone, I'll speak to your replacement, I guess.
Yikes.
Oh my God. You said that, AJ?
I did. And then I was asked to sit down and continue talking. So, it was somebody who just
works.
been,
okay. I'm going to start doing that.
No, it was somebody who'd been kind of rude and aggressive. I mean, it's really a last course of action. And again, I don't recommend it, but it was
sometimes you got to do if someone's being so rude and aggressive, you got to either kill them with kindness or just be rude and aggressive.
Yeah,
exactly.
It sounds like my parenting style. That's literally what I do with my kids.
It was just, this person was very arrogant and I was concerned about what was going to happen to them if they didn't know better, but I also was busy. And I was like, listen, I don't need to be in here. If you don't want to listen, it's all good. I get paid to help people. And if you don't want or need the help, I'll go elsewhere. I recommend you update your resume and buy some Bitcoin to handle what's coming your way. And I'll deal with your replacement.
I love this.
And they're like, whoa, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, you want to hear more now, do you? So it became a better conversation. Most times it doesn't happen. Like generally I just come in, I just want to help folks. And most people do want to do good work and they want to listen to people. And, you just want to come in and I want to hear them too. I want to know what their concerns are and their problems. CISOs have a terribly hard job, one I do not want. So it is important to listen to what their individual issues are and what their background is. And most are pretty good folks. But some are not. And there's some ego involved in it. And sometimes you have to tell them things they don't want to hear. So over time, to answer your question, this is how I've kind of been merging the intel and the cyber and the security background into more of this public speaking and content role is, there's a need and I have some knowledge apparently that can be useful along with a lot of other brilliant people that are better than me. But I'm a decent writer and I'm a decent speaker and I've got some gifts for being able to take complicated messages and make them more simple, mostly because I'm a pretty simple person. And so it's just been helpful, and as I said, my goal is to do good and help people. And, and I'm hearing from people like you and others in the marketing side that, you're the unicorn because, we need people like this, right? Because it does help to have somebody who can do this, who, for instance, isn't a commissioned salesperson. I do a lot of work with sales. I travel with them, et cetera, but I've never taken a commission, nor will I. And everybody knows that. And sometimes I'll tell customers or prospects, don't buy, which, salespeople hate. But I'm known for being, authentic and trustworthy then, because I'll try to give them the best answer, and they know I'm not motivated by the money because I get paid whether they buy or not. And marketing is the same thing. I won't shill for things I don't believe in. If a company has a message that I can't get behind, I'll just tell them, you can do it, just don't put my name on it.
Yeah.
If it's got my name on it, it's going to be something I believe in. We've had some conflicts occasionally, where I've been recently. There's an internal conflict. There's some people have a different opinion of AI than I do, and we've gotten to the point where some of those public comments have been actually in conflict. But I've said, if you want, I'll stop talking about it maybe, but I won't change my position until somebody convinces me it's wrong. I got to believe what I believe. So,
because you carry that because what you're doing is tied directly to your personal brand.
That's right.
It's to AJ Nash. AJ Nash is known as an accurate, reliable, got your back sort of person who's not fluffing or shilling, and therefore everything that you do must align with that authentic person that you are, because you have to carry that from job to job, and it'll follow you.
Yeah, exactly. It's authenticity is incredibly important to me, and integrity. I'm an Air Force guy, and the core values in Air Force are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all you do. I don't know that I'm excellent in much of anything, but integrity and service I try to work on at least a lot. And your personal brand, matters, right? I'm going to move around over time. Companies, make changes, things happen, but I'm going to live with whoever I am, and that's always really mattered to me. Even at the expense of companies sometimes, the podcast, for instance, I came in and I knew what I wanted to do. And I said, this is what I want to do. If you guys want, we can do it together. If not, you can launch your own podcast, do whatever you want. I'm gonna do my own thing. This is not going to be something where I'm going to have products on and we're going to do an hour-long infomercial. Nobody's going to listen to that shit, and I don't want to host it. So, so I like to think I've built a reputation as, at least as being honest and authentic. I don't know if I'm always right. I'm probably not always right. I'm right sometimes, but at least if I'm wrong, it's with good intentions, and hopefully that helps. Yeah. So
AJ, what could you tell us about how the private sector? So you've done on the government side, and you've been in the private sector. Mm-hmm. What could the private sector learn from the government side, from a cybersecurity best practices perspective, and maybe even vice versa? Maybe the government could also learn a little bit from the private sector.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah. Listen, the government does a lot of things well and a lot of things poorly. The government is a model of inefficiency, because it can be. Government prints money, so they're not going to run out of it. I think what the government does well, and what the private sector does somewhat well to adopt and should continue to, really is the intelligence piece. Again, the government, the U.S. government, and the Western governments in particular, they're the experts on intel. From start to finish, the intel community is 80 years old, give or take now. And despite what some people might think publicly, because they just don't know any better because they're not there, these are almost to a person very trustworthy, reliable people with really strong ethics and morals. There's a lot of strong training that goes along with intel to stay unbiased, which I think is very important. There's a lot of processes and systems. I think the more structured intelligence that gets in the private sector, the better we're all going to be. So I think that's a really big thing that we need to continue to push for. I think what the private sector brings to the government, a couple of things. Agility, certainly. Private sector moves a lot faster. Government is a giant, slow ship. Every organization is. It's bogged down by all sorts of administrivia. It's bogged down by a lot of politics, which sort of the private sector sometimes.
The budgets, not having a budget, shutdowns, no shutdowns.
Exactly. Yeah, and their budget cycles are different. Private sector budgets and government budgets are very different. I think the government benefits and can learn more about how to be more agile and more creative. That comes a lot from the private sector where there's more space. I think the government absolutely needs to figure out a solution, especially in the cleared environments, for what we're going to do about some of our drug policies, because we're losing a lot of talent just over the old school marijuana policies that need to go away, because some of the best talent likes to smoke weed in their free time. And I couldn't care less about it, and neither should the government, frankly. But until they don't fix that, until they fix that, they're going to have problems retaining some good talent. And I think the partnering, between the two of them is really important, because they have different roles and responsibilities. The government has some limitations. They also have some things they can do that nobody else can do that can benefit the private sector. But I think the private sector does a much better job with agility and creativity. I think the private sector, does a better job with purpose-based planning a lot of times. What problem are we solving for before we go solve a problem? The government can afford to be wasteful, and some people realize that. Let's go run down a path. If it doesn't work, oh well. It's just taxpayer money, right? It's not like we're going to have to report it to the board, or we're not going to worry about our quarterly profits or whatever, or we're not a startup that's going to lose our Series A funding. So they can be a little more wasteful if they don't try to be most cases, but it can happen, right? So I think the the responsibilities are a bit different. But I think the private sector also, the other thing the private sector really could learn from the government, but probably won't, is to care a hell of a lot more about the general public. The government's role is to take care of people. That's the government's responsibility. And almost everybody I worked with in government space, defense and government, really took that pretty seriously, frankly. A lot of people really do remember whatever you're doing, like this is something that's for the betterment of people right now. That's our goal and responsibility. Private sector has a lot less of that, to be honest. Most missions in the private sector, even if they say that's what it is, their mission's money. Like it just is. And I'd like to see a little more balance in that if we could get there. Listen, I love our economic system. It's as good as anybody's in the world, but I think we're going too far down the path of unfettered greed. And I think that's a real problem. I think it's more service to people is something that would be beneficial to everybody. This year is a good example of that. The last year and a half, when companies kept preparing for this recession that was never going to come. I'm not an economist. I said it publicly. I rolled the dice and said, I think these people are wrong. And of course, it turned out there was no recession. But lo and behold, they made lots and lots of cuts and preparing for it. And funny enough, they just went ahead and kept with those cuts, and they're still doing it. And companies are running up record profits quarter after quarter and year after year. And yet they just continue to cut people right after those profits. So apparently all the people that help them make the money aren't good enough to keep. And that's some unfettered greed I'd love to see reduced. And as I say that, I realize I better start my own company because I'm probably reducing my chances of getting hired with every word I say.
Well, we're not going to cut any of that out. So
no, I'm sure you're not. Yeah. If anybody wants to know, ajnash.com will be starting soon, apparently, because I'm going to need my own damn company. No, I'm kidding. No, I wish.
Oh, okay. You don't own that.
No, but really, I think what you're doing, if anything, you're speaking the truth, and it will weed out those companies that wouldn't want that kind of truth, right?
All those companies that like profits.
The company, right, that will respect you for who you are, your opinion, what you stand for, your values, and want that part of them.
Yeah, I don't want all those companies that are very profitable to want me. That's good. That's good advice, Maria.
No, that's not what I meant. There are some out there. Come on,
sure,
come
there's
on
a
now.
nonprofit willing to pay me $18 an hour to speak my mind all day long.
Then you know what? Let's get on that plan to start your own thing. Then nobody deserves you.
Well, I will also say that this is very authentic and it's true to brand. And like Maria said, it'll attract what you're looking for. And I'll also add one thing for folks who are listening, who are marketers at cybersecurity companies who have been impacted by the turmoil that has been happening in the private sector or even the public sector lately. The Cybersecurity Marketing Society has a very pop-in and active Slack community that helps folks who have been impacted by layoffs or reductions. Our community has helped hundreds and hundreds of people find new career opportunities simply through connecting with each other in the community. That like 2 weeks ago, I heard from 2 more people that they found jobs from the Cybersecurity Marketing Society Slack community. So I invite you to come and apply and join us online and also at Cyber Marketing Con, where we will have a government track this year. Government go-to-market, selling, buying, marketing, biz dev in public sector for cybersecurity companies. So if that's your side of the house, please come on down to Cyber Marketing Con. And it's just a great place to network as well and meet other marketers in the industry. We'll have a CMO track. We, of course, have a threat research track, which is also new this year. We have a lot of interesting content this year, and we hope to see you there.
Where is that going to be?
Oh, good. Thank you. It's going to be in Philadelphia, December 8th through 11th.
Am I invited?
You're invited.
Your name is already on the list.
Am I speaking?
Yeah, you're speaking.
I am?
I don't know.
Right.
Let's talk
I am
about
now.
it
I just tricked Gianna into committing to having me speak at this event, apparently.
You just did social engineering.
That's right. I got a lot of free time right now. I like public speaking and I like marketing.
Well, we have that government track and it's
and that Intel track too. You said you got a threat Intel track. So yeah, well, I guess we'll talk about it. That was actually live for anybody who's wondering. Gianna actually had no idea I was going to ask it, and I didn't know.
I know. I love it.
Now I'm going to be speaking in December in Philadelphia, apparently. So
they call him Authentic Nash. All right. Well, AJ, we are going to play our game now.
Oh, we have a game. Sweet.
Yes, this is our game. Yeah. So, Maria, want to explain the rules?
Yes. So, AJ, every episode we torture our guests with some really. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. We play a game. Gianna and I take turns at guessing what you would be doing today if you weren't currently in your industry or role.
Cool.
And, sometimes the guesses are pretty creepy and very accurate. And sometimes they're just way off crazy guesses.
Nice.
We're not allowed to pick like a previous career, or like, let's say you told us you're a public speaker. We can't say that, right? You work in the government. We can't say that. So we have to get really, really creative with it. And hopefully creepy enough to win. And then you have to choose which one was the winner.
Choose who wins. Awesome.
Yes, who's who's the closest, or if we both failed miserably,
just call you both losers and
on air.
move on.
Yes.
Dude, that's happened.
That's happened. I assume, it has to. Right?
Yeah, most of the time. So AJ, this is tough because if I wanted to win, I would say that you'd be on TV, but I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to say that you would own a really cool farm that maybe you would be the head of a farm company. Farming. Because it's about giving. Well, I guess it's, oh God. AJ, you're a hard one to pin down because I want to say sports broadcaster so freaking bad, but I can't. So I think you would have you'd have a commune. A farming commune. You'd be the head of a commune. In a good way.
We went from farm to commune. Do you just want to say cult? Do you just want to get there and just say, is that what you want to go with? I'd be a cult leader?
You'd be a cult leader. That's my guess.
I'm not going to lie. Your guess has gotten better each time you've updated this so far.
Ex-NSA.
A farm had like a 0% chance of being right. You have no idea just how lazy I am. And I don't like waking up before like noon. So I'd be a terrible farmer. A cult is starting to get someplace that I have some interest in. Now you're getting places. So
you'd be the head of a cult.
I'd be the head of a cult.
And it'd be a nice
good,
cult.
Apparently. Yeah,
that does good. It's a nonprofit cult, actually.
Nonprofit cult. Okay.
Yes, that's my guess.
I don't think that's bad. What do you got, Maria?
I think you would actually be in Broadway.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Oh,
nighttime show, Broadway, singing, acting.
Is it burlesque? Am I?
Okay, it is Friday afternoon.
It is definitely not burlesque. For anybody who knows what I look like in person, it's definitely not burlesque. But so all right, so I can either be a cult leader or I can be on Broadway. God, those are both actually. If I could make either of those true, that'd be pretty cool. I think, God, but it's a healthy cult. You said so.
Yeah. It's like a nonprofit, and there's I don't know, maybe there's fitness or something.
I mean, between the two of them, I'd probably have chosen.
Vegetables.
I'd probably choose the Broadway one between the two of them.
Yeah, baby.
I do really like being on stage. I'm a performer. I've done musical theater in the past and theater before.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and even though it would be wonderful to have a whole bunch of acolytes following me in a cult, it also sounds like a lot of work.
Plus, you already have that. You already have that because you have a podcast.
Nah, it's perception. There's like 5 people that watch my podcast. I think.
What
frankly.
should we do?
What's that?
That's what we should do. So AJ, if you'll probably get to know me and Gianna a little more, but every other week we have a new business idea.
Is this going to be it now? A cult is the new idea, or is it Broadway?
No. we should create and produce a Broadway show all about cybersecurity.
That actually wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. And then, our premiere could be the week before RSA.
That wouldn't be bad. We could use all of the all the characters that CrowdStrike created. Like we could have, the pandas and the tigers and the lions out there, as adversaries, right?
Owl.
Yeah, that's right. We could have the spy versus spy look. And, we could have the people in the hoodies come out and do a dance number. And
right.
This kind of writes itself. This
it really does. And I mean, marketers have to have a big part in the Broadway show. Let's just establish that now.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't bad. There are worse Broadway shows. I mean, somebody did a show about cats and it went really, really well. So this is a lot better. This is a lot better than Talking Cats, I think, right off the bat. And if you like cats, go ahead, enjoy.
That's it.
Oh my God.
A Chorus Line is my favorite Broadway show. So you can add that. Between the two of them, I'd probably go with the Broadway one. I mean, to answer the question, if you actually want my answer.
Yes, we do want to know exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So, which isn't close to either of those, frankly. I would, sports broadcasting actually, sure. I'd love to do that. I loved doing it before and it's a lot of fun. And if I could do that as a career, it'd be great. I coached high school football. If I had a dream job, I'd probably be coaching college football. Because I loved doing that quite a bit. Apparently I wasn't good enough at it. But I like doing that. And the truth is, growing up, I was going to be a lawyer. That was originally the plan.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah, I actually went in the Air Force with the intent of using the money for GI Bill. So I was going to go in and be a police officer in security forces in the Air Force, get an understanding of law from that angle, use GI Bill, go to law school. I ended up in Intel and a whole lot of things changed. And while I have a great interest in the law and I know just enough to be dangerous now, my financial planner informed me years ago that it would be very stupid of me to give up everything and go to law school now, just so I could graduate and then have to try to start my own practice, because nobody hires adults to be lawyers because they want people who can do 100 hours a week and churn up all the revenue for them. I'm too old for that shit. And I'd be giving away a lucrative career. So any one of those would have been a spot on answer. Broadway's a really good answer, though. I would have, I mean, if they wanted me to go do a show on Broadway, I'd do that tomorrow. That's absolutely fantastic.
Let's start producing it.
Yeah.
Well,
Cult leader's fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's they don't end well usually, but if you can find some people who want to worship me, I guess I'd do it for a while and see how I like it.
You have your first 2 accolades here.
So, look at this. Also, a great start. Yes.
I know. AJ, how do people who want to reach you about job opportunities or guests on your podcast or anything, how do they contact you?
Oh God, so many ways. So let's see. AJ.Nash at well, I have so many emails. I'm trying to think which one's a good one to give. Yeah, it's fine. AJ.Nash@outlook.com is one of the email addresses that would probably work. AJ at Fire Tiger Ventures would probably work. Best way to get hold of me really probably is texting or calling me, to be honest. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm going to give that out live, but it's 301-404-4885. I'm on Signal. God,
I mean, Obama did that.
I'm going to get smashed with people calling me now. Or LinkedIn, of course. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm pretty prominent there. I'm going to regret giving out my Signal probably. That's okay. Just remember, I'm an Intel guy and I track people down. So if you want to mess with me, don't. So, but yeah, I try to be free and open and available for folks. So I'm easy to get a hold of if somebody wants to talk. I'm happy to do it. LinkedIn's probably a really good place to start.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, AJ. This is exactly the episode I needed on a crazy week, end of week on a Friday to start the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a really, really fun conversation. I hope our listeners had as much fun as Gianna and I had. You'll probably see in the videos after the episode airs how much laughing we were doing. As you know, there is a new episode that drops every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe so you get the alert. Tell your friends in marketing and cybersecurity about the show, and we'll see you next time. And thank you, AJ, for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast, guys. So I look forward to talking with you guys more in the future. And I guess if nothing else, I'll see you in Philly because apparently I'm going to be speaking at your event now.
That's right.
Looking forward to it.
Voluntold.
See you at Cyber Marketing Con.
All right.